At my 7-year-old daughter's birthday party, 10 minutes in, my entire family stood up and left. "We've got better things to do," my mom said, while my sister smirked, and my daughter just sat there frozen.
I didn't yell.
I did this. The next day, they called me in a panic, and my daughter, Lily, had been counting down for weeks. She'd circled the date on the calendar herself, drawing little hearts around the number 7. That morning, she was already dressed before I even rolled out of bed, twirling in her blue party dress like it was Cinderella's ball gown. "Do you think they'll like the cake?" she asked me, eyes wide, almost breathless. "They'll love it." I said that I didn't add that I'd been up until midnight frosting it twice because the first layer slid sideways, or that my fingers were still sticky from blowing up balloons at 2 in the morning. The living room was cozy, not extravagant. Streamers, balloons, the slightly crooked banner, plates lined with sandwiches and cookies. Nothing fancy, but it had heart. The doorbell rang. Lily's face lit up. "They're here." Did I open the door, and in swept my sister, Angela, heels clicking, perfume cloud trailing, with her 3 children, Tori, Brandon, and Joshua, marching behind her like little soldiers. My parents followed, coats tight around their shoulders, eyes already scanning the room. "Happy birthday," I said brightly, and my mother's gaze flicked to the cake, then to me. "Oh, you baked," she said. Not unkind. Not kind either. My sister gave the room a slow once-over, lips twitching. "It's cozy."
Cozy.
The word hung in the air like smoke. Her eldest daughter, Tori, let out a little laugh, quickly covered by her hand. My father cleared his throat. "Smells like chocolate." I couldn't tell if that was approval or a complaint. With him, it was always both. Lily darted forward, her smile so wide it hurt to look at. "Hi, Grandma."
Hi, Grandpa.
She tugged gently at my mother's sleeve, waiting for a hug. My mother patted her arm absently, already turning toward the food table. Lily's smile wavered just for a second. We all sat, the room filled with the scrape of chairs and the faint rustle of gift bags being set down, and Owen touched the sandwiches. My sister's children whispered to each other, heads bent, shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. Every so often, one would glance at the decorations and smirk. I pretended not to notice. I poured juice. "Help yourselves," I said, and Owen moved. 10 minutes felt like an hour. The air was heavy with unspoken things. My sister asked my mother in a voice just loud enough for me to hear, "So, are we still going later?" My mother gave the tiniest nod. Lily caught it. I saw her shoulders stiffen, her eyes flick between them, confusion clouding her face. And then, just as Lily reached for a cookie, trying, bless her, to pretend everything was fine, my mother stood abruptly. She smoothed her jacket, adjusted her scarf, and then, in a voice sharp enough to slice the air, she said, "We've got better things to do." It wasn't a shout. It was worse. Casual. Dismissive. Final. My sister stood too, her kids leaping up like it had all been rehearsed.
"Come on," she said lightly.
"We shouldn't keep people waiting." "See," one of the children whispered. "Told you this would be boring." Chairs scraped, coats were pulled on, the door slammed, and they were gone. Silence collapsed over the room. The balloons sagged lower. The cake looked ridiculous, sitting untouched in the center of the table, and Lily, my sweet Lily, just sat there frozen in her chair, her eyes wide, her little hands twisted together in her lap. Finally, her voice cracked out in a whisper. "Mom, did I do something wrong?" It broke me. I knelt down, pulled her into my arms, and said fiercely, "No, you did not. Hing wrong." But she didn't look convinced. She kept staring at the door like she was waiting for it to open again. I teed in and I held her tighter, my fury rising like a tide, cold, controlled. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I didn't chase after them. I did something else. And the very next day, they regretted everything. If you think the walkout was sudden, you'd be wrong. It didn't come out of nowhere. It was decades in the making. That I grew up 2 years behind my sister Angela, which in child years may as well be a century. She was the golden child, the pretty one, the bubbly one, the one who seemed born knowing how to make friends, how to walk into a room and have everyone gravitate toward her. And then there was me, the smart one. Which is really just code for not the pretty one, not the fun one that while she was learning how to apply eyeliner at 13, I was teaching myself HTML. While she was sneaking out to parties, I was sneaking into the library after hours because the librarian had cut me off on the maximum number of borrowed books. Guess who the family preferred having around at Thanksgiving? Let me give you a hint. It wasn't the girl hiding in the corner with a secondhand laptop. They didn't even try to hide it. Why can't you be more like your sister? Was basically the soundtrack of my childhood. And yes, I laughed it off. What else could I do? Dry humor was my only weapon. Sure, let me just magically become tall, blonde, and charming. Should I send in a request form? They rolled their eyes. I rolled mine harder. And the gap grew. By the time we were teenagers, the roles were set in stone. Angela sparkled. I endured. But here's the thing about being overlooked. You learn to work. Really work. While she was busy dazzling, I was busy building ideas, plans, spreadsheets, businesses before I was old enough to vote. My family thought it was cute, a hobby, a nerdy little quirk. They had no idea what I was laying the groundwork for. And then came Thomas, the man they still insist is the reason for all my success. That I met him at a conference, a real nerd fest. Bad coffee, wore suits, endless PowerPoints. He wasn't rich. He wasn't flashy. He was like me, hungry, driven, restless. We sat in the back row making sarcastic comments about the speakers. And by the end of the weekend, I knew Thomas wasn't just someone I liked. He was someone I could build with. We both started with nothing. Long nights, no safety net. Ramen for dinner, hustling every angle we could. His business grew. Mine grew slowly, painfully, but together. But ask my family, and they'll tell you a different story. She got lucky, they say. Married a rich man. Funny how the narrative shifts when it suits them. When we were broke, they called me foolish for wasting my time. When we succeeded, suddenly it was all his doing. Convenient, right? But that's the family way. They take your achievements, twist them into something they can dismiss, and then hold out their hands when it benefits them. And oh, did they hold out their hands? It started small. A little help here and there. A bill. A gift. A weekend away. Then it snowballed. Suddenly, I wasn't just the nerdy younger sister. I was the bank at Angela's kids' birthdays. I paid for the venues, the entertainers, the mountains of gifts, family vacations. Villas rented in my name with a quiet assumption that of course I'd cover it. You can afford it. Restaurant dinners? Somehow, the check always ended up sliding toward me. And let's not forget the mortgage top-ups for my parents, which somehow became a regular monthly transfer. Always framed as normal, fair. Everyone's contributing, they said, except everyone was me. Did I complain? Not at first. Because here's the ugly truth. I wanted to belong. I wanted their approval. I wanted them to look at me the way they looked at my sister, with admiration, with warmth, with pride. I paid. And paid. And paid. But here's what happens when you feed entitlement. It doesn't. T's shrink. It grows. T stopped being requests and became expectations. If I didn't immediately say yes, they acted like I was selfish. If I dared to suggest something modest instead of extravagant, they looked at me like I'd committed a crime. The message was clear. My worth to them wasn't in who I was. It was in what I could give. And for years, I accepted it. I told myself it was fine. That this was just what family does, until Lily, because then I saw it starting again, the little digs, the little comparisons, the subtle suggestions that she wasn't enough unless there was a performance, a show, a spectacle, and that's when I snapped. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly, when Lily asked me this year if she could have a small family-only birthday, I said yes, and entertainers. No catered buffet, no circus, just us. But in the back of my mind, I knew this was a test. Not just for them. For me, would they still show up if there was nothing in it for them? Would they still love us without the glitter, without the grand gestures, without the money? I had my answer 10 minutes in, and I promise you, it was the last time they would ever use me that way. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, stiff as a statue, staring at the ceiling. Every few minutes, she whispered the same question. Mom, did I do something wrong? It cut like a knife. I sat down beside her, stroking her hair. No, sweetheart, you didn't do anything wrong. Then why did Grandma and Auntie leave? I should have lied. I should have said they were tired, or they had another appointment. But I was done lying for them. They left because they didn't get what they wanted, I said flatly. They only show up when they can take. That's not love. That's not family. And it's better we saw their real faces now. Her lip trembled. But they're family. I pulled her into my arms.
Supposed to be.
But if family walks out on you, then they're just people.
And we don't need people like that.
She nodded, but I could feel her body shaking. It was the kind of nod kids do when they don't really believe you why. E.T., when she finally drifted off, I sat alone in the living room, staring at the streamers. The cake sat untouched like an accusation, and that's when it hit me. For years, I had been paying for the privilege of belonging. Mortgage money, for Mom and Dad. Vacations Angela picked, but I paid for. Over-the-top birthdays for her kids with magicians, clowns, petting zoos. All signed off by my bank account. And what did I get in return? A walkout? Not anymore. That night, I opened my laptop. My fingers shook for half a second. Habit.
Guilt.
Call it what you want. Then I started cutting. Click. Cancel monthly mortgage transfer. Click. Withdraw from the Villa family trip fund. Click. Delete Angela's little reminder about Tori's party entertainer. Newsflash. Tori can learn to juggle herself. For years, I paid to belong, I muttered. Tonight, I stopped paying. And I stopped belonging. And I swear, the room felt lighter. BY morning, the storm hit. Mom texted first. Nancy, don't be dramatic. We'll talk later. Then Dad. The mortgage is due. Just do the transfer. Angela, of course, went straight for guilt. Tori's party is next week. You always pay for the entertainer. Don't let her down that I ignored them. BY day 2. The tone shifted. Mom, you're selfish. After everything we've done for you. Angela, unbelievable. You think you're too good for us now. Day 3. It turned desperate. Dad, if we miss this payment, the bank will be on us. Don't ruin everything over a tantrum. Angela, Brandon's been looking forward to this trip for months. You can't ruin it for him. I finally replied with one message. You walked out on Lily. Don't call me again. Then I blocked them. Silence, the kind of silence that isn't empty. It's heavy. Full of panic they don't dare put into words. Instead of funding their circus, I created something else. 2 weeks later, I threw Lily another birthday party. But this one wasn't about balloons or cake. It was about showing her she was wanted. Her friends filled the house. Kids who actually wanted to be there, not ones dragged in for show. The laughter was loud enough to rattle the windows. We played ridiculous games. Thomas set up a scavenger hunt, and when Lily won, she threw her arms in the air like she'd conquered the world. I looked at her glowing face and thought, this is what a party looks like. As the kids ran through the yard, my phone buzzed on the counter. Preview texts lit up the screen like fireworks. We can't make the mortgage this month. The Villa deposit is non-refundable. What are we supposed to do? You're destroying this family. I almost laughed. Almost. They thought humiliating me would break me. They thought I'd crawl back, wallet in hand, desperate to prove myself again. Instead, I was here, watching my daughter laugh so hard she nearly fell over, while they were scrambling to hold together the house of cards I used to fund. You'd think being cut off would have humbled them. Spoiler. It didn't. Within a week, the harassment started. First came the letters. Mom's handwriting on floral stationery, like a Hallmark card dipped in poison. Nancy, you're tearing this family apart. Don't punish us for one mistake. We raised you. You owe us. Classic Mom. If passive aggression were an Olympic sport, she'd have more medals than Michael Phelps. Then the emails. Angela didn't bother with guilt. She went straight for the jugular. You're selfish. Everything you have came from Thomas. Don't pretend otherwise. You'd be nothing without him. Yes, your husband made you narrative. Never mind the business I built. The nights I spent eating ramen while coding until 3 a.m. According to Angela, I was just Thomas's +1 with a credit card. When guilt and insults failed, they changed tactics. They went public. Suddenly, my phone pinged with Facebook messages from cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Your mom says you've abandoned them after everything they did for you did, of course. The family go. Sip machine. If lies could be currency, they'd be billionaires. But gossip cuts both ways, because soon enough, the truth leaked out that they had walked out of Lily's birthday like spoiled brats. That they'd left a 7-year-old in tears because the party wasn't good enough for them, and sympathies started shifting. I didn't even have to spread the story myself. Relatives carried it like wildfire. Aunt Ruth, the eternal peacemaker, called me in a fury. Nancy, is it true? Did your mother really walk out of Lily's party? Yes, I said, deadpan silence. Then a hiss. Unbelievable. Poor Lily. What kind of grandmother does that, exactly? The narrative started turning. Suddenly, I wasn't the ungrateful daughter. I was the mother protecting her child. And them? They were the villains who humiliated a little girl. But my family never recognized when the tide was turning. They kept flailing. Making it worse, I heard through the grapevine that Mom and Angela had a screaming match in the middle of a restaurant. Mom blamed Angela for pushing me too far. Angela snapped back that Mom and Dad were weak for relying on me. Apparently, Angela even threw a wine glass. Classy, right? Meanwhile, her kids, Tori especially, were sulking to anyone who'd listen. Why don't we have parties anymore? Why can't we go on vacation?
Loud.
Bratty. Entitled. Relatives called me with updates, half concerned, half gloating. Nancy, they're falling apart without you. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. And then came the lowest blow. They went after Lily Point one afternoon. She came home from school pale as a ghost, clutching an envelope. Mom, she whispered. Grandma gave me this. I snatched it from her trembling hands. Inside was a card with glittery balloons on the front. The message, in Mom's looping script, made my stomach turn. Dear Lily, we love you very much. We only left your party Bika. Used your mom ruined it. If she stops being difficult, we'll come back. Love, Grandma and Grandpa. My vision went red. Manipulating me was one thing, but trying to poison my daughter against me, that crossed a line. Lily's eyes brimmed with tears. Is it true? Did you ruin it? I knelt, gripping her shoulders.
No.
Absolutely not. They're lying because they want control. None of this is your fault, and it's not mine either. She nodded slowly, but I could see how shaken she was, how much their words had cut. That night, I called my lawyer. By the end of the week, I had a no-contact order in place. They were legally barred from reaching out to Lily again, and I didn't just slam the door. I bolted it, welded it shut, and threw away the key. Of course, they didn't take it well. Angela left me a voicemail that was basically a scream put into words. You're poisoning Lily against us. You're cruel. You're destroying this family. Funny, because the last time I checked, they were the ones who walked out on her birthday. Mom tried another letter. Nancy, you're overreacting. We just want to love Lily. Stop making her suffer. The irony nearly made me choke. Meanwhile, I heard they'd started asking around for loans. Extended cousins, old family friends. Anyone gullible enough to hand over cash. Word was Mom and Dad were months behind on their mortgage. Angela canceled her kids' big birthday bashes. The villa for the family trip, gone. The facade was cracking. They weren't just losing me. They were losing the image I'd paid for all these years. After the no-contact order, Lily stopped looking over her shoulder. She smiled more, laughed more, drew picture after picture, filling notebooks with color. Point one evening, after a day of playing with her friends, she curled up next to me and whispered, Mom, this is the best day of my life. I held her tight, and for once I didn't feel the old ache for approval, because I realized I didn't need my parents' love or Angela's fake sisterhood to give my daughter the life she deserved. But the drama wasn't done yet, because desperate people get sloppy. I heard from Aunt Ruth again. Apparently, Mom had broken down at a church luncheon, sobbing about how I'd ruined everything. Angela stormed out, calling her pathetic. Dad tried to smooth things over, but he only ended up shouting too. They were unraveling in public now. No masks left, and me? I didn't have to lift a finger. Here's the truth. Their rejection still hurt. The child in me still wanted their approval. Dry humor only hides so much, but every time I remembered Lily's pale face holding that letter, I knew I'd done the right thing. Because if that's what family looks like, I want no part of IT. So where are we now, Mom and Dad, juggling bills, drowning in debt, begging for handouts? Angela, humiliated, her kids angry, her friends whispering she's a fraud. The perfect image they spent. Decades polishing, shattered. And me? I have Lily. I have Thomas. I have a life built on truth, not lies. They thought they could shame me into giving more. Instead, they lost me and Lily. They thought I couldn't live without them. But it turns out, it was them who couldn't survive without me. Fast forward 1 year, my parents don't live in their house anymore. They lost it. Now they're crammed into a tiny apartment, the kind of place they used to laugh at when we drove past. And they're still fighting, louder than ever. Angela's life? A mess, and more lavish birthday parties. No more vacations, her kids hate it. Tori threw a tantrum because her party this year was just pizza and a cake from the grocery store. Brandon keeps complaining they never do anything fun anymore. Joshua told a cousin, Aunt Nancy ruined everything, which is hilarious, because I haven't given them a dime in over a year. And the gossip? Oh, it's brutal that I hear from relatives all the time. Angela screaming at Mom in public. Mom blaming Dad. Dad walking out. The perfect little family they love to show off gone. Meanwhile, Lily's thriving. She's not the same shy girl she was at that first party. She's louder, happier,